Hello, I'm Craig Constantine.
And I am Emeric McCleary, the host and creator of the My Spouse Died Too podcast.
Terrific. Emeric, it is a pleasure. I say this all the time. I need more adjectives. This whole thing is a street race car designed to give me an excuse to have fun conversations with people. And we have a little pre-call and we're talking about what should we talk about? And I think today we're going to talk about finding Nemo. No, we're going to talk about finding nuance. And I have no clue where we're going. And I always joke
Excellent.
that the show ends when the airbag deploys and you get a split second before you hit the dashboard. So off we go. When I said to you, let's talk about something related to podcasting, what made you think of the word nuance?
Well, so talk about what does nuance mean? It's one of those words where I'm sure I heard it when I was a lot younger, but I never paid attention to what it really meant, and I was too embarrassed to look it up. And well, nuance really means the subtleties, minor distinctions, like a personality or a character. So that has to do with finding that in conversation.
Hmm.
And so that's when I was talking about finding nuance, of course, like finding Nemo. Ooh, that was a big play on words, finding nuance. I thought I that's something I would love to talk about because that's what I attempt to do on my show. Okay. So, and
So, but who's driving here? Not me.
this is your
You
show.
told you it's just an excuse for having conversations. So you do your format a little differently, and I'm guessing that's partly to throw people off a little bit. Like, so tell me how your show starts. I mean,
Yes.
I know,
So,
but people don't.
yeah, definitely. So my show, the target audience of my show are widowed people. Okay. So my show gives people hope so they can heal, find love again, and give grief the middle finger. So that gives you an idea that it's irreverent and it's R-rated.
It's a little irreverent, right?
And so you're going to hear f-bombs and raw stuff, real things that happen in a widowed person's life or leading up to it. So um, the show itself is a long format, not how it's published, but how it's recorded. So we're recording for 3 to 4 hours, and the reason we do that is because that's when the gems come out. It's like you're standing waist deep, panning for gold, and you're not going to find something in 5 minutes. If you do, you're lucky, but otherwise, it may be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour in,
Hmm.
and something comes up. It's like somebody handing you an origami sculpture, and there's a lot of folds in it, and you might ask a question and someone gives you an answer, so what? But now you need to know more. So they hand you the origami sculpture. You need to unfold it and unfold it and unfold
Hmm.
it and unfold it and unfold it. So that happens over the course of 3 to 4 hours. And the way to do that is my job is to just say simple things like, how so? How might you do that? And and that happens after I have what I call my guest co-host. I always have guest co-hosts. I say guest co-host because that gives them authority to tell me to F off. Maybe some comfort to argue with me. And so, but what I let them do is tell their story in a once upon a time format because everybody understands that from kids. Everybody knows that, once upon a time things were like this, and then,
Hmm.
for example, maybe there's a shitty diagnosis. Oops, I cussed. Yeah, I cussed on your show. Oops. Oh,
Don't
a,
do
a,
that.
a poor
Shock and all.
a poor diagnosis, or somebody drops dead, and there's dark humor. Somebody dark, then and then what happens? And you go on and on and on and on. And while they're saying these things, I might stop them and say, "Well, tell me more about X, whatever that was,"
Hmm.
or tell me more about why you are sleeping in the middle of your bed now. And I may say, "What do you mean?" Or again, how so? That
Hmm.
how so that those two words I learned that from Joe Rogan. Now it's funny. I hear people say, "Oh, Joe Rogan," but you know what? He gets better and better at asking questions and letting his guests talk. And so the nuance comes out when someone starts describing things and you let them run with it. But you got to give up control to let them run with it because what I'm attempting to do is I want to find out the unknowns. But the great part is the unknown unknowns. It's like,
Bones.
oh, this person's doing some stuff where a listener is listening, thinking, oh, I guess I'm not that freaky of a person because they're doing the same weird
Same thing.
stuff too. Yeah. So that's the beauty of finding nuance is
Hmm.
is all of that, but it also trains you to be a better listener. And I think it helps, at least helps me, because I'm curious. I'm just infinitely curious. And so if you're infinitely curious, you're probably going to ask questions or let people talk or to give you more information or, again, looking for that gold nugget.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not curious, so I mean, how can you find nuance if you just want to ask questions and find out the unknown and then move on?
Yeah, you wind up steamrolling over the whole thing. Somebody said, and I don't remember who, that the cure for boredom is curiosity, and the cure for
Mm.
curiosity is, oh wait, no, there's no cure for that. Sorry, you're just going to be stuck with that because it winds up. And I think I have that problem. So I call curiosity a problem. Like if you really got the curiosity bug, it's a problem. It just totally eat your face. It'll
I
consume all your
agree.
free time and eat your whole project up. I'm going to guess that you find that you can really exhaust a guest, because I know it happens. I'm like, dang, that person looks really tired. Oh, right. It's been 3 hours of sitting here with microphones and headphones. And do you find that you can tell up? So my question is, I'm assuming that you can pretty much exhaust somebody like that if you're not careful. Do you find that there are certain kinds of people that are more likely to be exhausted? Are the guests who are inherently curious, are they better at running the marathon? Like, I'm wondering if there's something that are people who are curious also more used to being in, like, sitting in the deep space, sitting in the nuance for longer periods. I'm like wondering, because curiosity feels kind of frenetic, and I'm wondering if that also
Yes.
plays out as them being patient.
So with my guests, I don't know up front if they're curious. So I'm going to do some vetting before I have them on the show. I'm going to get on a phone call first, and I want to listen to their voice. Just about everybody has a good enough voice. Okay,
Right.
just about once in a while there are voices out
Once
there
in a
where
while you get something like a talk about, right? You're like,
that
no,
that kind of
thanks,
voice, I
bye.
yeah, this no thanks, right? So I'll get somebody on the phone, and I'll listen to them, and I want to know if they're going to be able to take the F word. Can they
Right.
cuss? Are they going to be offended? That O word is so stupid to me. Are they going to be offended? Can they banter with me? So and so it's almost like I'll say, okay, we're going to talk for 15, 20 minutes on the phone first and chit chat, and we schedule that, and it turns into 45 minutes, and that in and of
And
itself
that's a
could be
good
a
indicator.
show. It's a great
Yeah.
indicator. So I pre-vetted them, and then I get them on a Zoom call where I see their face. I want to see them. So now they're getting a little more comfortable with me because they see me now. So there's frequency now. It's the second contact, and of course I need to make sure that their audio works because most people are kind of,
Yeah,
I
they're
should say,
not.
audio idiots. Really,
I was going to say they're not used to the crazy technical level that us podcasters are used to, but okay, if you want to say audio idiots.
I just thought I'd tear the bandage up. So to attempt to answer your question, I know I'm going around the barn a lot. Is
Go wherever
I,
you
I
want.
I'm vetting in essence by talking to them. I had somebody who wanted to be on the show. Some guy wanted to be on the show. He's again a widower,
Hmm.
and so I was chit chatting with him, and he kind of didn't fit the profile of the age. So generally, the guests on the show, my guest co-hosts, they lost their spouse or their partner anywhere from late 20s to when they were in their 50s. Okay, so it's not the 80-year-old or the 90-year-old, and this person was late 60s, but there was nothing there to the conversation. I was trying to pull things out, and it was just flat. And I thought, I'm not going to have him on the show. It's kind of like, for me, it's okay. If there's going to be a cocktail party on Planet Emeric, who do you want to invite? Would you
Right.
invite that guy? And he wouldn't add to the show. I would have to be doing all the talking, and that's not it. So that's part of the vetting process. But I don't have a format for my vetting process. I do
Yeah,
have
just trying to spend time with them.
to
I think
spend time with them.
that's
That's
a
really
deep,
it.
mindful way to do it, I think.
I do it with all. I've had 3, 4 authors on the show. I do the same thing with the authors. Of course, I tell them, send me your book first. I do a little bit of vetting there. If I want to read the book, send me your book first, and I will read it. I actually read it. I underline. I write in the margins. This
Oh,
is rabbit hole
amen.
stuff. I
I've
write in the margins. I
yep.
look at it, and I think about it, and then
Yeah.
then if I decide that this is something I'd recommend to listeners, then I let them know. Love the book. Love it.
Mm,
Love the book. It's very helpful, I believe, to many, and I want to have you on the show. Now we need to let's do a test, a sound test, and
mm.
and then let's schedule something, X in the future. Because now I need to go back through all my notes, and then I start making notes of my notes.
Hmm.
But that's vetting, authors, because sometimes an author may not sound good. I mean, all the authors have been fun to have on the show.
Yeah, people are people, right? Everybody is different. Everybody sounds different, looks different, acts different. Some people like I've had people show up, and I had a place that I rented for a week, and I was having people come. I was in England, people coming to me,
Mm-hmm.
and on the first day, I did the first interview after I set up all my crap on the table because I'm interviewing in
Right.
person, so I have an extra
Yeah.
body in the room.
Yes.
There's three
Yes.
of us, all
Yes.
this stuff set up, and the second guest showed up and froze, and they came in the room and they were like, because I thought I was being inviting. I had a chair pulled out with a cushion, a glass of water,
Uh-huh. Sure.
and to them it was like your execution chair is right over. And
Oh,
they were like they
did you have
locked up
wires?
me. Well,
Wires and a car
there's
battery?
headphones, and yeah. So then I was like, for the next whatever many episodes, I was doing this little pre-dance where I would kind of half take things apart. I would lay their microphone, I'd take it out of the stand, and I'd unplug something. So there was one thing I had to plug together, and it was like
Oh,
the whole bullshit show. But it changed the environment for them, and it made the space. It made it. Before that, I had done a lot of podcasts. Before that, I hadn't really paid attention to the imbalance of power that as the host I had. And like that,
yes.
when I'm like, oh yes, I'm completely comfortable here because I've knocked the mic over and I've spilled my drink on myself. I've done all that. But to them, they're, oh, okay, Craig. So you mentioned learning that the whole thing that use your words, Craig. I'm worried about the airbag going off. I mentioned
I know. I
before.
need to know beforehand so I can take my glasses off because I don't want to smash the rest of my face up.
I think the airbag is going to become a running joke for the show. But you mentioned before that, and I think you said your podcast has become a way for you to practice listening. And I was nodding vigorously, but nobody heard that. And what I'm thinking here was the story that I just told about the guest who freaked out.
Mm-hmm,
That
mm-hmm.
was kind of when I went, oh, not only am I learning to listen, but I knew when that's when I had my headphones on and
Yes,
when the other
yes,
person's talking, but I'm
yes.
also learning to empathize, and I'm also learning to practice compassion. And that to me is like, boy, did everybody knows me is like, Craig, you really need to take that course much, much sooner. So
So, so,
I get a
so,
lot out of it.
so it sounds like you weren't very compassionate or empathetic before.
Probably not. I would agree with you. Yes. I would say that I was not super compassionate. I think the mistake not the mistake, but the thing that I was doing wrong was I would understand, I would see somebody upset. It wasn't like I'm missing completely and not noticing. Wasn't that I wasn't
Yes,
empathic. It was that I
yes.
went, all right, well, the best thing for me to do would be to not meddle with your crap. So I would ignore it,
Mm-hmm.
or I would keep my response or my compassion to myself.
Yes.
Now, whether or not that's actually that was really what was going on, but that's the way I perceive it as being calibrated. But now I'm much more like, if something happens, good, bad, whatever, fun, I'm much more comfortable going, oh, we're going over here. Okay. Not like, oh, I don't want to go over there. That's uncomfortable. Now I'm just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, okay, let's go over there. I mean, well, that's uncomfortable. Wait, that's interesting. Why is that uncomfortable? Let's go over there. So I just think it made me more comfortable acting out or manifesting, the
Yes.
mirroring, the
Mm-hmm.
manifesting, going along on the journey in good, with good intentions.
But you had to practice that. In other words,
Oh God, yeah.
someone who might be thinking, "Gosh, I just can't do that with people. That's not me."
Oh no, I've
Usually, when
done
someone
like
says that's
200
not
of
me, it's
these.
usually some fear. That's usually some fear thing, some shame
Just seen the
BS thing.
first five. They're like, oh my God.
So yeah, it takes you. So you practice it. I mean,
Yep. Yeah.
I have to practice that too. One of my guest co-hosts, when he came on, we didn't do a sound check because he was going to do it. He came to my house, and by the way, if they're going to be at my house or we go to their place, we're going to have a meal. Either I'm having
Amen.
food brought in, or I'm going
Yep.
to cook, or they're
Gonna
going to cook,
cook, or we're going
and
for a
there might
walk to the coffee shop. Yes.
yeah, there's going to be alcohol involved probably.
Ooh,
There
I
hasn't been
learned to
anything
avoid
else.
that one. They're not good
They're
to
having a glass of wine because we're going to get into some real heavy topic stuff, real heavy things, and lots of times a lot of the nuance comes out after we stop recording and we start talking about dating and there's sex talk and all this other stuff. And I just let them go in terms of what they're saying. And it's a lot more fun
Yeah.
because it's very risky. And one of the evil sides of mine is throwing something out that makes people squirm. I mean, some question. And the weird part is, you mentioned authority because it's your show, and that's one of the reasons I say you're guest co-host, because I want to give them some authority. I don't want them to think they have no authority, but you'd be surprised how many of them aren't asking me something.
Oh my God, people do not. I mean, like this particular show is all podcasters, so maybe half of the time people ask me questions, and I love it. But when you're talking to like the regular guests, they do not want to. I mean, unless they have a canned spiel. I had one guest, like literally a single one, show up with a notebook, computer, and spreadsheets, and I was like,
Yes.
"This is going to take a little longer than I'm thinking. This is going to take a little longer than
Yes.
usual for me to get to the good stuff." But unless they show up like that, they want to be podcasted. Is that a thing? They want to have the podcast experience done to them. And they might not, maybe it's because they've never imagined what might really go on behind the scenes. You know, if one has heard a podcast, you don't really know what really happened.
Right.
So I love when people get to a point, and it happens maybe half of the time on this show, they get to the point where they're like, oh, their curiosity comes out, and then it actually comes out. You know, they're like, well, where do you want to? And then I'm like, oh, yes, let's go that way. So I don't know. Did you ask me something? I don't think so.
I don't recall. Maybe I did. See, these are the conversations. These are the conversations I love to have. They're wide ranging, but they're real versus somebody asking 3 questions. I get it if somebody wants to listen to a show where it's information. I want to learn 3 things, and so there's 3 questions to ask. I completely get that. It's just my show's not that way, and my conversations with my friends aren't that way either. They just go all over the place. We might talk about, I don't know, a leaf. Hey, I saw this yellow leaf. It was really a trip. There's this vein stuff on it. I'm going to take a picture of it and show you how cool.
Right.
It's just
you're sharing experiences. Right.
That's it. Finding nuance. I've got a couple of resources I would share if you would like me to.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Go.
So there's a book I bought. This was, I don't know, a couple of years ago. And if you buy this book and you apply just a couple of things from it, you will become a better listener. You will be a better communicator with your family, kids, spouse, parents, whoever's alive. I was going to say whoever's dead. No, I can't help you there. But friends, employers, your lover, whoever. And it's called Never Split the Difference. I've mentioned this before, probably on some of our webinars we've been on. Never Split the Difference from Chris Voss. He was a former FBI negotiator. And this really teaches you how to find the unknowns. And for less than $20, you could possibly enhance your life.
Yes. I have not read the book, but my brain is going, they have a blog, he has a company, and he has a lot of blog posts, and I can just see like the blog posts developed into, and like I can just see like the multi-year thought process that went in behind that. And I've read all the blog posts, and every time that book comes up, I'm like, oh, I wish I had more hours to read. There's just out of sight. There are books.
Same here. There's always usually like a running 5 or 6 books running where they're not complete. I mean, I look over at my nightstand. I thought I need some leisure reading, some relaxed reading. So I have Hemingway on hunting. There's a bunch of essays pulled out of his books. So you start
got all this
reading
Huxley over here. Have you ever read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Huxley? That's a really good collection of essays.
No, I have not, but perhaps so. Never Split the Difference.
Never Split the Difference.
I like listening to Stephen Dubner. He's the host of Freakonomics. He was one of the co-authors of that book from years back. And you listen to how he asks the questions and how he poses things. And of course, I mentioned Joe Rogan, but in terms of when he'll say, "How so?" He'll just tell you, "Look, I'm stupid. I'm a dumb guy. I don't understand this."
Use smaller words.
And then guess what's happening next? Then his guest is explaining everything. Well, yeah, because he wants to know. Maybe he already knows, and he just asked the question that way. So, but all that gets you to nuance, and nuance is what part of that is the kind of where you find the beauty in life, I think. So
Yeah, I would agree. I think that's a perfect place to call it. Airbag. It's like
airbag's coming in.
terrible metaphor. I need a better way to end this show.
I
Emeric,
appreciate.
it's a pleasure. I'm delighted that we got a chance to sit down and chat. I'm delighted that we've managed to work our tech. Part
Yes,
of the fun
yes.
with this is that we can all commiserate about technology.
I appreciate it.
Um,
I'm honored. I'm honored you had me on here. Thank you, Craig.
oh, you're too kind. Everybody is. I'm like, it's easy. It's press record, then you press stop. I think it's easy, but it's purely my pleasure. Emeric, have a great rest of your day.
Likewise. Peace.